Hey guys, welcome everybody. I really appreciate you joining. I know it was a short notice for this live, but when I saw the announcement yesterday that Andrew Bailey was going to be appointed at the FBI, I knew we had to do this live with our guest tonight. So I appreciate everybody coming in on short notice. Sandy, good to see you. Good to see you. Let me get Zeppo up here. Hey, Zeppo.
I will. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. My house, I went from the other day, my HVAC being broken, to now you can hang beef in here. I don't know what's going on. They fixed it really well.
I
Really
guess
well.
it's a better problem, right?
It is. It is. But
Yeah. Okay.
I almost threw an Afghan over myself before I started this live tonight. Just to be prepared. Listen, everybody, if you would, please start tapping that like button. Tonight's live is really important. We're going to be talking in detail about Missouri Attorney General, the Missouri Attorney General who was just appointed to the FBI, Andrew Bailey. We're going to be having a special guest, and our special guest is Elad Gross, who actually ran for the office of Attorney General on the Democratic ticket. And we're going to go into great detail about who this man is. This man is a Christian nationalist, and he's done a lot of really awful things, not only in the state of Missouri in terms of serving in the office, but he's also done a lot of really awful things to some very innocent people in this state, including children. And we're going to talk about all of that tonight. We're going to try to keep the language TikTok friendly. Try to remember that in the comments if you would, because this is going to be one of those lives that, is going to walk the edge, if you know what I mean, guys. It's Andrew Bailey, guys. We're going to be talking about Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey and the fact that he was appointed to the FBI. And I wanted everyone to know the wake of destruction that Andrew Bailey has left in his wake here in the state of Missouri and what we're getting at the FBI as a result of him being put there. So give me just a second. I'm going to bring up our guest. Elad, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. I'm going to see if I can get you on equal footing with me. There we go.
All right. I've never done this. Is my first TikTok live. I've never done one of these.
Well, man, I'm glad it could be with me. Absolutely. I'm glad to take your TikTok live virginity. So listen, this is really important, and I'm so glad that you joined because I don't think the country really understands, Elad, what they're in store for getting our, I guess we can say now, ex-Attorney General Andrew Bailey as a high-level executive in the FBI. To me, knowing about his history, I know you know even more about him than I do. To me, this was just dumbfounding. It fits right in with the narrative of this administration and what they want to accomplish, but I really appreciate you joining me. We're just going to take a few minutes here and let people like the live and get it shared and get it out there so we can get some folks in here. But I think you and I need to do a little education session tonight. That's what I think.
Unfortunately, I know plenty.
Hey, Will, if I just wanted to say to everyone in the chat, if you could really quick just power tap real fast, tap, tap, tap the screen, just get us up to 10,000 likes. That way we'll get on that For You page and we can get right into the conversation. Also hit that heart me at the top. Make sure to go back in there and claim all your prizes. That helps us get on the For You page. That way, a lot more people will be in here and listen to this conversation we're about to have. So tap the screen, share the live. Let's get this thing past 10,000 likes, please.
Yeah, we got to do all the social media creator stuff here, Elad, to get everybody in.
Hey, you're doing a great job. I don't know. I mean, I had a team do that, so now it's just me and the dog.
We've got a really extensive team here at the Back 40 called Bill and Will and Billy, and that's about it. So
pretty good.
But we're getting a lot done for just a couple of guys that don't have a clue what they're doing.
That is phenomenal. Yeah, mine is just it's Elad and Liberty Bell. She's down here somewhere. She'll make an appearance, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Well, I don't know, man. I feel, my grandmother, who was a librarian, She was the head librarian at Greenwood Laboratory School in Springfield, and then later became a librarian at Missouri State and some other colleges. And she used to, at least once a year, she would read me the stories about the little boy with his finger in the dike, you know. And I feel like that a lot lately. I don't know about you, but I feel like that a lot lately. It's almost impossible to keep up with all the chaos.
That's the point, you know. Yes. I mean, that's part of the strategy is you just do everything all at once. What do they call it? Flood the zone, I think, is what they call it. But
yeah, absolutely. I know Steve Bannon's made a point. You know, Steve is the one guy that says the quiet part out loud all the time.
Right.
And, you know, he's made it clear that that's what their philosophy is. So, listen, we got quite a few people in here, and we'll get a lot bigger before the night's over. I asked some other big creators to jump in as we're going along, and they'll bring their crowds with them. But if you don't mind, Eli, could we just start out? Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Because you've not only been a candidate for Attorney General, but you've obviously got a strong background in the law. I want everybody to kind of understand your bona fides before we get started here. So would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Good deal.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Missourian, Elad Gross. Grew up and was raised over in St. Louis. I've run for Attorney General. Unfortunately, I lost to the guy. So I guess technically, he's leaving on September 9th. So on September 9th, I will be the guy in the state with the most votes for Attorney General. I just won't be serving as Attorney General at the time. But I previously served as an Assistant Attorney General of the state back when that office used to function very well. That was Chris Koster was the Attorney General at the time. Jay Nixon was right before him. And while I was at the office, I was in charge of one of the busier litigation dockets all over the state. And since then, so for almost 10 years since now, I have run a practice where I primarily practice civil rights law. I sue the government when the government violates people's civil liberties. So got pretty involved in a lot of different advocacy, helping folks get involved with their government. Civic education and engagement's a really big passion of mine. So I always like telling folks, here's how government works so that they can get more involved. And that's why I think, look, this is great what you're doing, because unfortunately, a lot of folks don't know how important state attorneys general are and the amount of damage that they can do when they're not good at their job, or if they are just there so that they can one day get a call from somebody in D.C. and then move on up to whatever they think is more important than serving us as our attorney. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing here. Although I say unfortunately, a little bit, part of my mind says, well, it's kind of nice that we're getting rid of them over here. Because hopefully we'll have a more qualified person in that office running it. And it appears to be that's the way we're going right now. But I feel bad for anybody who works at the FBI because that's going to suck having him to report to. But.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest with you. I was really surprised when I saw the news. And of course, it's got to play out. We don't know for sure that it's going to happen. But I was really surprised even that the current governor is going with more of a mainstream Attorney General, which will be good for the state of Missouri if it happens.
Right.
I still always think there's a chance that the national administration can put pressure, on them to put somebody nutty in there so that they'll keep filing the crazy lawsuits and doing all the things that have been happening. But let's hope we get a little bit of sanity, right?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Well, listen, do you, I can talk a lot about it a little bit, but I'd really like it to come from you if you're comfortable talking about it. I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about his background, because the story about Andrew Bailey that a lot of people don't know is that he has never one time run for elected office until he ran for re-election. And he was appointed by our former governor from my hometown, Mike Parson. And so he was appointed to the position, which is something Trump loves to do, right? He likes to take controversial people and put them in some of the most critical positions in the country, and they have no track record of performance or running for office or serving in a public position. So his career here in Missouri really started out in politics, just getting the nod from the former governor because he was his personal attorney, correct?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, before, if we think about like the line of what has happened, a lot of folks here will probably be familiar with these names. We had Josh Hawley as an attorney general, and he actually ran an ad saying that he wasn't another ladder-climbing politician, literally had ladders in his ad. And then the moment that he could run for Senate, he sure did. And so when he left, we don't have, and I know a lot of folks ask, oh, is there a special election? We don't have special elections to fill vacancies for our attorney general. So instead, the governor got to appoint his replacement. His replacement was Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt then got to be a senator, so then he left. And then the next appointment was Andrew Bailey. And at the time, I had dealt with Andrew Bailey a bit. There actually was a story that got some national attention from Missouri. There was a reporter and a professor of cybersecurity who discovered a massive flaw on Missouri's education, on our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website. And that flaw was if you right-clicked on the website and you look at all that code and everything that's behind there that actually makes your website look the way it does, there was a sequence on there for every single teacher that you would look up their credentials to see who's got a master's degree, who's got a PhD, whatever it is. And when you looked at that teacher, you'd see the sequence of numbers, and that sequence of numbers just so happened to be their social security number. So for every teacher, retired teacher, everybody who's in the education system in Missouri, their social security numbers were available online. And a reporter discovered this, contacts a professor who ended up calling me. But this professor says, well, sure looks like a social security number, but I can't confirm unless I talk to a teacher. And the reporter said, well, I've talked to 3, and I can confirm I know all 3 of their social security.
Let me help you out there. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So they said, look, and this, this professor, he'd been doing this for a while and had seen other issues, had reported it to state government before, and had actually gotten an award for being a good guy and doing the right thing. So one would think, the right thing to do is let's report that to the state. And then the state will do the right. They'll say, thank you. They'll take the website down. They'll fix it, and we'll move on about our day. That's not what happened. So it gets to, they start writing this letter. And you can see, because of our transparency laws in Missouri, they start writing this letter saying, thank you so much. And then the governor's office gets a hold of that letter. And specifically, Andrew Bailey, the attorney, he looks at that letter, he talks to the governor, and he says, well, what they did wasn't something kind or good or what you want a citizen to do. What they did was hacking, and they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Yeah.
And for some reason, our governor, as you know, didn't really know how to use the internet or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he said,
sure. Believe me, I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And he went along with this, and I got a phone call from the professor, and I said, oh, hey, I've seen you in the news. Why are you calling me? And he said, well, because I know you sue the government, and I need someone to help me from the government suing me.
Yeah.
So I took that case and actually had to threaten to sue quite a few folks because they started using them in campaign ads as liberal hackers, or I don't know. It was a whole mess. And Andrew, that was my first interaction with Andrew Bailey. He then, shortly after, so by the way, they tried to prosecute him, and thank goodness this prosecutor said no, even though they used our money to send a highway patrol officer to go and investigate, interrogate all of these folks. For months, they were scared out of their minds if they were going to jail. And that's because we had big government brought to you by Andrew Bailey trying to violate people's civil liberties here in Missouri for doing the right thing. And shortly after that, Andrew Bailey gets the appointment to be Attorney General. And I won't forget, because his press conference, he's there, and, he's doing the whole, thumping of the chest thing. And the first question is about whether he's changed his mind about that case, about whether they should have prosecuted those 2 guys. And he said, no, they absolutely should have been prosecuted. The first day as Attorney General of Missouri. So if you didn't know what was coming by that point, you sure found out pretty soon after.
Yeah, and I just want to summarize really quick, because we went through that quickly, and I want to make sure, because we had people come into the live, I want to make sure people understand again what happened there, okay? Everybody listen up, listen closely. So we had a situation in the state of Missouri where our educators, both retired, and I think some of them still not retired, but most of them retired, had their social security numbers exposed on the internet because of a flaw in a program that had been put in place here in the state of Missouri. And a reporter doing due diligence, doing the work of a reporter, doing what a reporter is supposed to do, caught this and reached out to the state of Missouri to get a comment about the fact that this was happening. And the state of Missouri, this is why when you folks talk to me from Ohio and you talk to me from Oklahoma, I sympathize with you, but I tell you, at least you're one step behind the state of Missouri. Did they fix it? Did they change the website? Did they go after the person that did the programming? No. They tried to carry out legal action against the people that caught the problem, and didn't just try to carry out legal action, used every single method they could, defamation, using state resources to call them out, the threat of lawsuits, etc. This is the environment that Andrew Bailey creates everywhere he goes. And some people tried to make the argument, I remember, Elad, when he first came into office, well, don't worry about it because he was just carrying water then. Now that he's attorney general, they used to say this about Trump. Once he becomes president, he's going to get the gravitas of the presidency, and he's going to not be the guy that said you're fired on The Apprentice. And that never happened. It just got worse. Same thing with Andrew Bailey. So he comes into office, and why don't you tell everyone a little about some of the first things that he started to do? Now, I want to talk about the lawsuits first, if we could.
Yeah, sure.
And what we're going to do is you and I are going to very carefully after that navigate the waters of TikTok and try to talk about the conspiracy theories that he supports without getting my live banned.
I got a strike on my channel. When I was running for office, I posted a video of him denying the election. I got a strike for that.
Right.
Literally, the
we'll
attorney
figure out a
general.
way. We'll use abbreviations and nicknames and whatever we've got to do. But I think we'd be safe if you want. Let's start out talking about all the frivolous lawsuits that he filed as Attorney General.
Oh my good! We don't got time to go through all. It's insane what he's done. I mean,
Yeah.
look, if you look, I don't know if it's still his pinned tweet, and if anybody's still on Twitter, or X, whatever they call it, but it was China owes us all of this money now, pay up. So he sued China for COVID basically, and then China argued that they weren't and actually Donald Trump's attorney, who is now Harmeet Dillon, who is now at the Department of Justice in charge of their Civil Rights Division, a very conservative, but a well-known litigator throughout the country. Even she was like, Andrew Bailey's insane. You can't sue a sovereign nation from this state. That's part of international relations, and it's part of the Trump policy. And if Trump's got to make this decision, not you. You're not the president. But he, brought this lawsuit, and whether you think this happened or not, I don't know. But they didn't
just call it C-19 though, Elad. Okay, instead of the other word, C-19.
C-19, sure. C-19. Excuse me. Don't get you in trouble.
No, that's okay,
know
man. It's hard to remember all the rules.
Yeah, it's a tough world out here now. But that lawsuit ended with a default judgment. So that's when the other person doesn't show up, and it's for a ton of money. And he promised to collect it immediately. We've been waiting several months for all of the billions of dollars to come into Missouri.
Yes.
And for him to take back Chinese-owned farmland, which, by the way, he's taken money from all of those corporations that just so happen to be enabling Chinese-owned farmland in Missouri. But what do I know? So, yeah, I mean,
let me tell them what you're talking about there, Elad, because we talked about that before here. So, guys, what happened is back somewhere, I know I'm not going to get the year right, but somewhere around 2014, the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, came into the state of Missouri, and they were writing these bills that they called the Right to Farm Bill all over the country. And they kind of sprung it in Missouri. And just to be brutally honest with you, I feel like, and I'm including myself in this, we got caught off guard. We weren't prepared. There was a lot of flowery language in there about the constitutional right to farm. And what happened is once you got past the preamble with all the flowery language and you read down into the bill, basically the two really nefarious things that it did is it guaranteed the right of CAFOs, commercial animal feeding operations, to operate in the United States and to totally trash the water like they have in Iowa. And the second thing it did is it protected international individuals and companies that protected their right to buy farmland. We jumped on it late in the game and almost beat it, but didn't get it done. And what happened, what Elad is talking about, is the Chinese immediately, within a month after the bill passed, they came in and bought up 40,000 acres of some of the most pristine farmland in the state of Missouri. Now, we beat it down in Oklahoma. We learned our lesson in Missouri, and we made millions of calls and sent millions of text messages down into down into Oklahoma, and we got the farmers down there turned against it, and we stopped it there. But that's what Elad is talking about. So he helped support the very bill and lobbied for the very bill just as an individual person that allowed the Chinese to buy the land, came into office, claimed he was going to get all that land back, then took money from the companies that bought it and never did anything about getting the land back. This is the guy we just put in the second highest position in the FBI.
Yep. That's
So,
him. Yep.
do you want to touch on the? I mean, I'm sure you agree with me. I think the most egregious thing. Okay, I'm not saying that right.
Egregious. You're close. You're very
Egregious
close.
thing that he did. I like to make up words a lot. The most egregious thing that he did to me were the lawsuits against the trans, kids, and going after the, trying to get medical records of kids and this kind of thing. Do you know enough about that to walk through it?
Yeah, I mean, he sued, so he actually did more than what a lot of folks know. He was also sending out letters to smaller clinics all over the state that were providing treatment. And, in Missouri and so many other states, this was a concerted effort really through our legislature to limit the rights of folks that have been marginalized just all throughout this country. And unfortunately, they become a target. And when I was running, I got questions about this all the time, and because I made a point of going to conservative areas, talking to conservative voters, and telling them like, how much big government do you really want? How much do you really want Andrew Bailey looking at kids' medical records to make decisions about who should get medical care and who shouldn't? He doesn't even wait for legislation. So in most states, they've got legislation that goes through. There's debate in the process, and in a state like ours where there's such a super majority of one party, that deliberative process sometimes isn't as deliberative as maybe we want it. But before they even passed a law, he decided that he was the king of Missouri, not for the first time, by the way, he's done it multiple times, but decided that he was going to pass a regulation on his own, the first time in the history of our state that the attorney general decided to become the chief medical officer for the state, and said, here's all the things that you have to go through in order to receive treatment. And it was years of this and years of that and all these things. And folks were like, well, what is, like, who put you in charge of this? And the answer was nobody. And they actually ended up going to court and saying that they could enforce a lot of this. And it was publicized here, but they were in the wrong court. And the judge started yelling at them for, why are you in federal court bringing this when this doesn't belong here at all? And unfortunately, that was characteristic of the office, where even, on cases, whether you agreed or disagreed, I mean, they were filing in the wrong spot. They weren't responding at the right time. They were blowing cases left and right. They were blowing taxpayer money all the time. In Jackson County, so over on the Kansas City side, a lot of folks had these property tax assessments that went through the roof. He blew that case too. I mean, there were so many opportunities for him to do a good job for Missourians, to protect folks, to improve public safety, to make sure that we were going after waste and fraud and all these things that, we were talking about on a national stage. And he didn't, because he was the waste, he was the fraud, and now he's moved on up to Washington, D.C. and left us with the bill. And so I agree. I think that for proponents of smaller government, the tenure of Andrew Bailey was horrendous. He tried to expand the power of his office, including when he was an unelected appointee of a governor. He tried to expand the power of his office to deny people health care, deny people the right to vote, deny people their voice in government. And nobody elected that guy to be king, and we have a government in America, whether it's the U.S. Constitution or you look at our state constitution here in Missouri or anywhere else in the union, that is designed to prevent somebody from concentrating so much power into one office. And that guy didn't care. He didn't care at all.
No, he didn't care. And tell me if I'm wrong, but was it that case you were talking about where they told him he was in the wrong court? He just dropped it then. He never went back to the correct court after he spent hundreds of thousands, possibly a little over $1 million. He never went back to the correct court, right? They just didn't show up and they let it drop.
Yeah, I mean that's what would happen. Like, he would get press attention for all of these things, and then once the press went away, it's like, oh, whatever. I wasn't really filing this to do anything with it, and so there were a number of cases that were just hanging out there. I mean, one of them that got him to like Twitter stardom. I don't know if you all remember this, but there was a time where Elon Musk was highly critical of a group called Media Matters. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Media Matters, but at the same time, like, I also don't think that the government should be restricting people's speech and everything else. So this group came out and they said that Twitter, under Elon's ownership, was basically running ads of these big companies next to like white supremacist stuff, Nazi stuff on the website, and they published this article, and Elon said, "Oh, this is terrible and all this stuff." And there are other people who chimed in. Stephen Miller, who got another guy I went to school with, and that's just terrible to see him where he's at right now. But at the end of it, Attorney General Andrew Bailey responds something really short saying, "We're looking into it." And at the end of the day, he does. He sued. He went after Media Matters. He tried to use the state's, his attorney general authority to shut down this group from publishing anything anywhere that a Missourian could read. And Media Matters ended up suing him back. And what didn't get covered was they won. So the judge found that Attorney General Andrew Bailey violated the First Amendment, abused the power of his office. And what happened at the end of that case? He dropped it. There was some settlement agreement with them saying that, yeah, I blew it and you guys didn't do anything wrong. But where was that coverage?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, he's wasted so much of our money and made Missouri such a worse place for law and order and belief and confidence in government and its ability to function for the people of Missouri. I mean, I'm glad he's just a code deputy somewhere instead of actually in charge of the FBI. So at least someone's looking at him, but not super confident in the people who are doing that anyway.
To your point, though, the problem is the people like him with the loudest voices who are the most nefarious, regardless of the position they hold, they seem to rise to the top. They seem to be the ones that take, when you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, asking the questions in the Oval Office instead of the New York Times or whatever. But all right, so I'm going to make a general comment just based on the conversation we've had so far. And I'm not saying this to bring back bad memories or to make you feel sad a lot, I promise. But when I listen to you speak on these issues, and then I think about that troglodyte going to the FBI, it just amazes me how willing people are to overlook good qualifications, a great legal mind, just to check a box that says R, and how badly that hurts us here in the state of Missouri. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but brother, man, just don't ever stop running. That's all I'm going to say. One day, I may be gone and you may be my age, but one day somebody's going to do the right thing. Oh my gosh.
Well, I appreciate it. And look, I mean, part of it was, look, the guy came to one debate. Actually, this, if somebody wants to pick this up, he said some interesting things during the one time he showed up for a debate, and that's he still had a primary against Will Sharp, who's actually over in the White House right now too. And man, some of the he was lying through his teeth about where he was getting his funding from, and he went to that. He heard what was going on. He never showed up for another one after that. Yeah. And I mean, it's just sad that folks, it's a problem that people, like I said at the beginning of this, people don't. They don't look at the attorney general. This isn't just true about like people. It's true about like media coverage and the infrastructure behind it. But attorneys general are so important. I mean, it's your attorney for the state of Missouri, wherever you're living, and those folks have a massive impact on the quality of your life. I mean, if you've been sitting here and you've gotten a scam call or a scam text, or you've had someone who's been defrauded by some contractor somewhere. I mean, these are real things that happen to people every day, and that's what the attorney general should be doing. They should be providing us with good government, protecting the people of their states, and it shouldn't be about self-promotion. He turned that office into a studio with a whole bunch of ladders behind him that he got to keep climbing up until he got
it was just
and
all performative. It was all performative.
It was, and what makes me sick about it is, like, look, you might, and I know there's some folks, I'm reading some things down in here that there might be some things that you disagree with me on some issues, and look, that's fine. Like, there's no problem with that. But what really eats me up about this is that there have been so many people who have looked at the folks of Missouri, our neighbors, the people that we love, our family, everybody else, and they have said, you know what, you're too stupid to realize what I'm doing to you. I'm going to take advantage of you. I'm going to run and say a whole bunch of things that you think, are going to make you happy. And I'm going to get there, do absolutely nothing to them. enrich myself the entire time, and then move on as soon as I get a chance. I can't wait to get out of the state of Missouri. And look, this has been my home for my entire life. I love Missouri. My wife, is upset at how much I just want to stay here all the time because she loves to travel and probably go somewhere else. But we ain't doing it. I'm dying here, and I will fight until my last day for the people.
Me too, buddy. I'm not going to give up my family and friends and this place that I love and this beautiful part of the country and farming just because, I mean, like I keep saying, and I know it's melodramatic and I love saying it, they can have my democracy when they pry it from my cold dead end. You know what I mean?
Though. Yeah.
So,
that's how this country started, you know, and that's if it's not going to end, I mean, I hope it doesn't end at all, but if it's going to end, it should end that way with us actually fighting for it.
Yeah. Elad, I want to talk a little bit about the primary role of the FBI and how Bailey fits into this, which is as a law enforcement agency. So a lot of people forget, I don't want to make this sound bigger than it is because it wasn't a huge deal, but when I lived in Ohio, I was born and raised in Missouri, went off to college, lived around the country, came back in 2007. But I was a volunteer driver for the Secret Service. I got to meet a lot of law enforcement people in my time in Ohio when I was involved in politics. And one thing I've never forgotten is in talking with these folks, the integral role that the FBI plays, not just in fighting, violent crime and things like that in our city, but how important they are to the domestic pushback against international terrorism and this type of thing. And the seriousness of which that office and that agency has to operate. I'm sure you've heard this as well in the past because I know you have a lot more friends in law enforcement and in those legal areas than I do. But the stories I've heard about bad things that have almost happened in this country that were stopped by the FBI or by Homeland Security when we had serious people running those agencies, a big fear that I've got, and I almost hate even voicing it, and I think you know where I'm going to go and what I'm thinking, is that something really negative and really bad is going to happen because of the lack of professionalism and expertise that's growing inside the FBI. So am I correct in my deep dive into Andrew Bailey that I've done over the last couple of days? Am I incorrect in saying that he has zero law enforcement experience in his background? And secondly, I couldn't find anything in his actions as Attorney General. So you could make the argument, okay, the guy was appointed. He was the personal attorney to the governor. Governor Parson pulled a Trump and put his personal attorney in place. Then he had an opportunity to really hone his skills as a law enforcement officer. But I don't see anything in his background before he became AG, and I don't see anything that he did as AG that would cause me to believe that there was this big epiphany and transition into a major player in law enforcement to go to the FBI. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I think. Look, I think there's definitely some to that. I will say he did serve as a prosecutor prior to his time. So when I don't know when we overlap, but at some point he was with the Department of Corrections as their attorney here in Missouri. He was a prosecutor, if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe Warren County. But he did that for a little bit, and I think what did he say? The one time he showed up was like, well, I need to make a little bit more money, so I moved over to be.
Okay, but now, Elad, one thing real quick, okay? And I'm from rural America. I live in rural America. I love rural America. This is not a slander or a degradation of rural America, but I'm guessing that the assistant prosecutor in Warren County, Missouri, probably doesn't see a lot of counterterrorism duty. Am I wrong?
I don't think so. What's interesting is, so I was just talking to somebody else about this today. We actually have a division at our Attorney General's office that's called I guess they've changed the name however many times now, but for smaller rural counties, they would take on a lot of those prosecutions. And that really wouldn't really involve issues with like international terrorism or even domestic terrorism. A lot of those were partnerships with the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office. And what's really interesting is if you actually want to look at his background track record on this, when Eric Schmidt was the Attorney General, right before Andrew Bailey, he started an initiative called the Safer Streets Initiative. And that was a partnership between his office and the Department of Justice to go prosecute people, mostly for violent crime. So less, terrorism focus and all of that. But sometimes, you get caught in whatever it is. Andrew Bailey ended that program. Andrew Bailey ended that kind of partnership that we had with federal agencies, and he actually promoted a lot of laws in Missouri that made it harder for local law enforcement officers to work with federal agents to
Right.
stop violent crime generally. So no, there's not. I mean, I so it's a little surprising that he wouldn't be going like somewhere within the Department of Justice to do something as an attorney versus doing something at the FBI without really any experience at the FBI to start with. I mean, I have mentioned it a few times here. I'm distrustful of government generally. I want there to be a lot of checks and balances within our system. I think that's really healthy and important for the type of democracy that we have. So it's not like, I'm opposed to having fresh eyes on things. But if you were to ask me, would I trust Andrew Bailey to be in charge of, one of the most important law enforcement agencies in the entire country? The answer is no, because I don't think that he would trust himself. Like, he'd have to appoint folks. Now, I will say this, though, in a lot of these agencies, like we see at the Attorney General's office, different departments, much of the work gets done by folks who have been there for a long time.
Yeah, the career people.
And what gets concerning is when you start to see a lot of them leaving and a lot of that institutional knowledge leaving, because what you see mostly from leadership at the top that doesn't know what it's doing, if they don't know what they're doing and they're not good at managing other people. I mean, his office is a great example of that. It's like the smallest staff at the Attorney General's office that we've had in a very long time, because folks just can't work there because it's too much to deal with this guy. I think that's a potential issue moving forward, even at his new position now. So I would be concerned about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, and I'd love to hear your take on this, he's obviously been in close touch with the administration as he's joined in these, crazy lawsuits around the country. I don't see that he's being put in this position for any other reason than to destroy, quote unquote, the deep state, to continue to tear apart the FBI and to get rid of career, FBI personnel, the people that are really there, to your point, doing the work to try to defend us and that type of thing. I just see him as, my grandpa would have called him, he's the big turd in the punch bowl, right? Which, I mean, we need to make a T-shirt out of that, Zeppo. A picture of Andrew Bailey on the front and the turd in the punch bowl on the back. But do you kind of envision him the same way?
Yeah, I mean, look, he when he gets going, and if you've ever seen him talk, I mean, he gets really animated, like really into it, gets very, it almost feels, I mean, I don't know, he just sounds very upset all the time. And I think we've seen a lot of that rhetoric from DC. Personally, I don't think it's the most productive thing in the world. Like, yeah, get mad at things that make sense, but if you're constantly mad at everything, I mean, what are we supposed to believe here? But yeah, there is a certain agenda right now in Washington, D.C. I do not disagree with the thought that our government needs to be more efficient, and folks who aren't doing their jobs probably shouldn't be there, and we shouldn't be spending money on them. But for folks who are doing the right thing and are doing a great job protecting our country, I think that those are the folks who need to be elevated and supported more. And it would be nice to see like that happen versus us taking some guy who has not been very good at his job from Missouri and moving him to DC to a higher level.
Elad, could you stay on till 8 o'clock? Because I've got. Okay. I want to be cognizant of your time because I know you're busy. You're involved in a lot of different things. We got to touch on C theories, if you know what I mean, but we're going to try not to use the C word.
Oh, okay. I'm working on it. Yeah.
Yeah. For this first one, let's just call it the big lie. Okay. So he was really involved in a lot of the key lawsuits, et cetera. He supported other states that tried to support the big lie, et cetera. Can you kind of go in? And I think this strikes at the heart of a lot of people don't realize this, but the Justice Department is, I think people get this part. The Justice Department is involved heavily in, protecting the right to vote and making sure that, civil rights laws followed in that area, even though we've had some huge attacks against it during the Trump administration. The FBI is also engaged in the investigation of wrongdoing in those areas. This is another thing I've got to be honest with you that really frightens me, is that we're putting someone in this position whose responsibility normally would be to be a leader in investigating wrongdoing in that area, who bought into the big lie, advocated for it, and carried water for it all over the country. Can you talk about his thoughts on the big lie and what he did from a legal perspective as Attorney General here in the state of Missouri to support the big lie?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, he was very supportive of litigation all across the country. He brought lawsuits. He claimed to lead them. Now, what was discovered, I think, a little bit later is that a lot of this stuff was written not by him or his office. He was kind of just putting his name and then going and trusting himself out. I mean, it's like for a guy who talks so much, he just doesn't do very much, and it's just so interesting to see. So he'll argue, and I think even his primary opponent at the time was saying, yeah, but Louisiana did that, or yeah, but Oklahoma did that. You didn't do anything. So yeah, I mean, he was going around the country filing these different cases. And yeah, like I said, I mean, he is responsible for the one strike that I've gotten on this platform, because literally we're sitting at something, and what were the results of the election? And I mean, man, does he just go on and on and on and on? And yeah, he is certainly in that camp of people. And you're 100% right. The federal government, Department of Justice, and at times the FBI. I mean, they can get involved in investigations on these things too. But yeah, I mean, they play a very crucial role in upholding our right to go vote. And if you've got somebody who is more interested in the result than in the process and making sure that folks actually have that ability, if you'd rather just have them agree with you, then you start to use that power in a way that I don't think anybody would really appreciate here, other than those who get to keep that power.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point, I think if you're spending energy in a position of that importance, advocating for what you know not to be true, then the likelihood that you're going to spend that same level of energy or any energy at all truly investigating the attacks on those rights, I just don't believe it's going to happen. I mean, there may be people that you mentioned, like the career prosecutors, the career employees of the FBI and the Justice Department, that are still trying to fight the good fight. But in the end, the decision, tell me if I'm wrong, but the decision to actually take a case to court is still made at those higher levels, right?
Correct, yes. And we've seen that already, right, on some high-profile resignations and letters that have been published. But at the end of the day, and we've seen this from the current administration, both now and before, if you get somebody into these appointed positions that doesn't agree to do what you want them to do, you just fire them and find somebody else to do it. And unfortunately, it's pretty wild how many folks are willing to carry the water on this stuff when they know that they're wrong. And I mean, if we talk about some structural issue out there, it's unfortunate that there's quite a few state bars, right? So the legal profession is policed and managed internally. We have our own ethics investigations here. The state Supreme Court is the one that ends up putting out punishment. We have an Office of ethics and investigation, all that. But if we're not going to actually enforce that against people who are taking, literally lying to the public about what the law is and what your responsibilities as an attorney are, we are in a really, really bad place. And we've seen that time and time again from him in particular. And there have been bar complaints filed against him, but none have actually gone much of anywhere. And I think that's even on pretty stark and obvious cases, and that's problematic too. So
yeah, I agree. Okay, let's quit with the C theories. I think I just wanted to make the point that he's an advocate of these, and he's going to be in the second highest position in the FBI.
There's another issue here with where he's going, because I mean, we haven't talked about it yet, but I think probably some of the worst stuff that he did was he used state resources to keep innocent people in prison. I mean, he fought.
Yeah, talk about that, Elad. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, of all the things that really worry me about this guy. So we have folks in Missouri who are in prison and are innocent. That's true just about everywhere where we have a prison system. And so we have these appeals, everything else designed to help folks do that. Unfortunately, in Missouri, and we made national news for this, our laws were really, really behind, to the point where judges would say, I'm finding that this person did not commit this crime, but I don't have the authority to release them because they weren't sentenced to death. If you were sentenced to death, then I could release you, although you might have been dead by the time you got here. But because you weren't, I can't do anything. So Missouri, we changed the law and we gave the ability to prosecutors to say, we made a mistake. We're going to sue and say this person should be released after a review. And actually, there's a movement now to say, well, let's expand that because prosecutors' offices are so overloaded. There's no way they can get to all of these cases. So let the individual say, hey, I'm innocent. I have this evidence. Let me out, and we'll have a judge review it. And so that law that they're proposing right now supported Republicans and Democrats, a lot of libertarians too, and the Attorney General's office under Andrew Bailey staunchly opposed to. Absolutely wild the stuff that they were saying in those hearings. But he had several cases of folks who are obviously innocent. They proved their innocence, and a prosecutor came and said, you know what, we screwed up. This person should be released. And in every one of those cases, Andrew Bailey made sure that his office was there to oppose it. In one case in Kansas City, this poor guy was there for 40 plus years, and he missed his mother's funeral because Andrew Bailey delayed this whole process with all this stuff that wasn't even contemplated in the law and took up all of these appeals and everything else. Sandra Hemme was another one who was there for 40 plus years. And this lady who they had evidence that she was framed by local police so many years ago. Even the police department was like, we did a bad thing here. She needs to be released. And thank goodness, I mean, she's actually suing right now to try to get some compensation out of this. But absolute, I mean, the guy time and time again would fight and use taxpayer money to keep innocent people behind bars. And now he's with the FBI, and part of the job to keep innocent people behind bars. And now he's with the FBI, and part of the job of law is to make sure that folks who are innocent are able to get out too. It's not just people in there, punish them, and never do anything about it again. It's just, man, I mean, his belief is almost like win at all costs rather than let's make sure that justice is done on behalf of the people of our country. And now he's there. He's at the FBI now.
Yeah, and I had an attorney tell me once, a really good attorney out of Springfield, tell me once that with very few exceptions, there are some people that do argue those arguments based on principle, even though I think you and I agree that the principle is wrong. But he said, with very few exceptions, 95% of the attorneys out there that argue that it's okay to continue to fight against somebody being released when it's proven that they're innocent, if they're fighting their release, then they're the same type of prosecutors, et cetera, that don't have any problem incorrectly putting people in prison to begin with.
100%.
That mentality goes hand in hand.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
And it just multiplies that out, right? Because now you have, I mean, at least in our state, the Attorney General is in charge of dealing with appeals. So prosecutors, they prosecute, and then there's going to be an appeal process. And prosecutors can't handle all of that work on top of what they do. So then that work was concentrated at the Attorney General's office. And I'll tell you what, like when this guy there was a police officer who was convicted for murdering a guy in his backyard over in Kansas City. And that was the first time the Attorney General, we always defend these cases. We make sure they go. That guy was prosecuted. He was found guilty. He decided he wanted to have a judge look at it. There was evidence that that someone was planting evidence at the scene to make it look like it was a self-defense situation. Gets prosecuted, gets convicted, and what did the Attorney General do on that one? That one he says, oh, well, I think we made a mistake on this one. This is the one we made a mistake on. And he immediately got the endorsement of the police afterwards. I mean, it's just like wild what this guy, I mean, for cases where somebody has spent decades of their life in prison, having lost their liberties and their freedom, their abilities to spend times with their kids, with their family, with their parents, and oh well, too bad. You know what? Yeah. Let's see how long we can keep you in there, even after a judge has said that you're innocent. And that kind, to me, that itself should have been an impeachable offense and should have ended his career right there. But instead, we're still going.
We're going to promote him. I run into the same issue when I'm talking about agricultural issues, and I talk about, what it's going to mean for the food supply system if we end up losing 15% of the farmers to bankruptcy, or we silo all the remaining parts of agriculture. And I think part of the problem, to your point, is we talk a lot about numbers, And what I've been trying to do a lot lately for the last couple of months is translate that talk about numbers into the impact that it has on real human lives. What does it mean when somebody, because of the big beautiful bill, loses their insurance?
Yes.
What does it mean if you've got diabetes, or if you're a kid like me? I got my arm injured in a farm accident when I was a kid. What does it mean for you if your rural hospital is closed down and, God forbid, you get your arm caught in a power takeoff on a tractor? And I think that you do a really good job of that. You have some of the most diehard supporters in the state of Missouri. And I think that's because you relate these administrative actions and legal actions back to, how they impact real human lives. And along those lines, rather than me lead you down a pathway on these different issues, I want to let you just riff a little bit, because I've heard you do it before. If you had to talk about one or two or three of the top challenges and assaults on human liberty in this country right now, from the perspective of what you're doing as an attorney, you're out there fighting these cases every day. What do you think are the most serious threats happening right now in this country? And if you could, I'd really like you to talk about the solutions that you see, even if they're half-hearted, even if they're only going to get us 10% of the way there. What can we do? Do you mind talking about that for as long as you want?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't know if your viewers might, but we'll see. Yeah, look, I think if because I deal with a whole lot. I sue the government for violating a lot of rights of people, and when I get calls from folks, given the practice of law, I'm getting phone calls from people, and it's not their best day.
Right.
And I'm dealing with situations, and a lot of it isn't just where I can sue this person and fix this. A lot of people, they're like, well, if the attorney general could do that or this, or if the governor did that or this. And so I'll talk to them about, like, how do you best advocate for yourself in that situation? How can you organize around that in your situation? And I can't tell you the number of folks that you brought it up, but the number of folks, especially in rural Missouri, that I've talked to who are scared to death of living where they do, because God forbid if they have a heart attack and with the closest hospitals, 40, 50 minutes away, and they don't have a doctor who can treat that issue. They'll have to be air flown out somewhere else. And I mean, it makes the assault on so much of Missouri, so much of where we all live, I think is so stark when you look at rural areas of Missouri. And you think about education, you think about consolidation in that area. Folks are trying to make a quick buck off of our public education system right now. I mean, there's so much that's under attack. And so when I think about all of these issues and how much they're rich people who are just extracting as much as they can out of our country and really ruining, like, the promise of America for so many of us. What I think is probably the biggest crisis that we have to overcome as a people is how to be engaged in our government and make sure that our government is responsive to us. Because I can't tell you the number of young people, especially that I've talked to, who are just like, man, what is even the point of this? I don't care who's running for what. I don't know who's doing what. I don't know anybody's name, because it doesn't matter to me. Nobody's going to fix anything. And I've been watching this. And, if you're a young person now, your job prospects are lower. Things are expensive as hell right now. The prospect of being able to own your own home, I mean, it's just like all these things are evaporating. And you think, oh, if I did the right thing and I went to this program or that program, got a good job, and even then you're barely making ends meet. And for me, it's a failure. It's not that we don't have the resources to get this done, to make sure that everybody has opportunity, to make sure that you are not like your future is not defined by where you happen to be born or how much money is in your bank account. We just need better leaders to make sure we're not screwing over all the good stuff we have here. Mm-hmm. And man, I feel like, for me, a lot of folks are, look, I mean, I'm not going to lie. You can look me up right now. I got my ass kicked running for Attorney General. We didn't have as many. Obviously, Andrew Bailey got a whole bunch of votes, and I didn't get them. And I made a big effort to talk to folks and to see where they were and to get around. But a lot of people on Election Day didn't know what the Attorney General's office was or what it did. And some folks just voted for me because I had a cute dog, which that's nice, but, like, we need more. So I get this question a lot is, well, Missouri used to be a swing state. And I know Republicans who believe this too. It was better when that was happening because then you had like some real, debate
Right.
and real like exchanges of ideas. And now it's just, whatever somebody dictates to us, I guess we're just going to bend over and do it. But for me, it's less about saying, hey, I need to organize, Democrats here and Republicans there and whatever here. I think we just gotta, we gotta be people. We gotta know who our neighbors are. We gotta talk to folks. We gotta find a way to have conversations with each other without wanting to kill each other. I mean, I've got folks in my family. This is gonna be. I'm gonna tell this right now. Not a lot of people know this, but as when I was running, we had a massive volunteer program with all the wonderful folks that you were just talking about, and all over the state, we actually ran a get out the vote program to get people rides to the polls and everything else. And the person who was running that program was stressing out about it so much because she didn't want to screw up, making sure that people could get rides and make sure they could go vote, was a Trump Republican who voted for one Democrat in that election. That Democrat was me. And a lot of folks don't know, for like the Democratic Party in Missouri, that whole operation right there was run by a Republican. But she used to be a Democrat. These are people who like used to be here, and they have like
we talk to those folks all the time, Elad,
yes.
all the time.
It's well, see like if we actually get to the basis of it, like we agree on so much, and when we have these conversations, it's like, yeah, we don't want to be screwed over. So for me, I think that the organizing work that we have to do around the state and our countries around issues that people care about, fixing our schools, fixing our roads. How you have an animal care shelter in your area that's going under and you want to make sure that's great. How do we support you doing that? How do we organize folks around you doing that? Building a real community that gets real things done. And then you know what? Have those people run for office. Have those people run for school board and state representative and governor. Because if those are people who are coming from a place of saying, hey, look, we can make our lives better if we figure out how to work together on these issues. Those are the folks that I want in our government. So my suggestion, recommendation, humbly, is I think that we need to reach out to people more on those things we care about instead of the color team that we are on. And I think that that's going to make us all a lot better off. And honestly, if you are on a colored team that you think, we're doing great and this is our idea, well, good. It's going to make your team better. It's going to make all of our teams better. And at the end of the day, the teams can actually get along and play a game together rather than just take the ball home and hope the other one doesn't find them. So I am very optimistic because I see so many people who do such wonderful work just in my neck of the woods, and I see it happening all over the country too. It's just we have to find a way to elevate those voices and those people into leadership positions all throughout our country.
Yeah, and Beth makes a good comment, a really good comment down in the comments. She says, look at how St. Charles came together over the data center. Perfect example of that, right?
Great example.
There are always things that rise above the political fray that are bad for all of us that we can combine together and use. I got a question for you. And if this isn't your area of expertise, I totally get it. Don't feel like you have to answer it. But, as somebody that does a lot of polling and does all of the technical work behind political communication, I've really done multiple deep dives into the voting in the last election. I'm thoroughly convinced, based on the data that I see, that legal voter suppression played a huge role in the last election. I mean, I think the worst case scenario is it cost around 13 million votes. The best case scenario, it was a little over 9 million votes. And this is all legal suppression. Like, you signed your ballot, but you forgot to put it in the first envelope before you put it in the second one. And all these other things that were legally done, they weren't illegal. Some people have made the argument it cost us the presidency. I'm right there on the edge of that. I think maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'm not there yet on the people that are making the arguments that, there were numbers changed and that kind of thing. I just haven't. I've seen some really great, persuasive arguments, but then when I do the deep dive into the data and how those voting systems work and that type of thing, I just don't see the actual, real connection there that the election was taken away from us. But what are your fears about the legal voter suppression and the changes in the law and the gerrymandering and this type of thing? What are your biggest fears? Like, everybody keeps saying, well, we're not going to have another election. I don't worry about that. I think we're going to have an election. My fear is that we're going to have legally suppress so many votes that even if we have an election, they're going to have an advantage going into it. I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah, I think. Look, I think that there's certainly in that area we're seeing. You see it all the time where there's these weird laws, or they eliminate polling places. Heck, I was in the boot heel not too long ago, and they were talking about eliminating polling places where you have some, predominantly black communities, and nearby some high poverty areas too, right? And all of a sudden their polling place is gone. How are folks supposed to get there and back? And that was a serious issue that a lot of folks were talking about, even here in Missouri, but all across the country. You're seeing. I mean, we saw that I think in Houston. My buddy over there, he's an attorney over there who the Harris County attorney is actually running for Congress right now. But there are a lot of laws in place that make it more difficult for people to vote, and I think that. Look, I certainly believe in election integrity and making sure that folks who are supposed to be voting are the ones who do, and those who can't. But at the same, we figure that out. We know how to do that. We know how to let more folks do it. And actually, we've got some great local election officials here in Missouri who've been doing some cutting edge work on election security and expanding the availability of folks' ability to vote. Heck, in Springfield, you've got the Greene County clerk over there, Shane Scheller, who's a Republican. And he's done a great centralizing. I can go anywhere and I can vote on this. We're starting to see that over here in St. Louis, and there are these reforms that work really well. And then you're going to find, some people, they talk a good game and they say, oh, we don't want this election to, be stolen. We don't want these bad people vote, whatever it is. And okay, yeah, sure, we can agree on. But then the fine print is where it's really important to read, because if all of a sudden they're making it really, really difficult for anybody to vote, especially working people to get off and go vote, all of a sudden you're seeing this what's called legal voting suppression. But I think there's another aspect to that too, and that's apathy and the creation of more and more of it. I mean, we've seen turnout in certain areas, man, just drop off the face of the planet. Yeah. And that, to me, is a massive concern, because I feel, look, if you get folks who are fired up and they're ready to go and they're ready to go vote, there's going to be a lot of rules about, oh, you can't do this, you can't do. They're going to fight back on that real quick. What gets scary to me is when you don't have that many people voting anymore, and they just, whatever, who cares, it doesn't matter, and we just let this steamroll over us. That's
right. No, and I, to be completely honest with you, one of the proudest things, one of the things I'm most proud of at the Back 40 and what we're doing is that when I started this rural advocacy, I noticed there were kind of two schools of thought out there, and I would never name any names because, listen, everybody advocating for rural America is in the same fight, and I wish there were 500 of every one of us out there doing it. So this isn't an indictment of anybody, okay? But there were two theories out there that I heard all the time. One is we've got to give up on our blue cities. We're not going to squeeze any more votes out of Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, et cetera. We just need to focus only on rural America, which is wrong, because I do me, man, I'm a numbers cruncher. I have to, or else my company goes under. I took St. Louis County and I looked at the number of unregistered people versus the number of people that were registered to vote. And I look at that county, St. Louis City. We've got 100,000 people up there that are either unregistered to vote that would lean Democrat, or are Democrats who are not voting right now. 100,000. And then the other argument that I heard consistently was, well, all these Republican counties out there are already heavily registered, so you're not going to get any Democrats out there, so we need to really focus on the blue cities. The truth is, elections are hard work.
Yeah. And
we got to do both.
Yeah.
We've got to go chase after all three of those things. We've got to change minds. Here's the other thing. Polk County, Missouri, where I'm from, there are only 971 people that are not registered to vote over the age of 18. You're not going to register your way out of the problem. Another thing I hear this all the time. There's this huge block of far left, or they'll say there's this huge block of centrist voters that are just not voting because they get unhappy when we run a left candidate, or they get unhappy when we run a centrist candidate. If every single Democrat in Polk County, Missouri voted, and every unregistered person in Polk County registered and voted Democrat, we still would have lost by 21% in Polk County. there's no scenario in rural Missouri where we win rural Missouri without changing minds. And that's what I love about your campaign. I made a commitment to myself, you know, if I really wanted to be tough on our candidates, I'd say, I'm not going to vote for any candidate anymore that doesn't believe in changing minds. Because if you don't believe in that, you're basically saying, I'm writing off rural Missouri. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're 100%. God, this makes me, I mean, I have heard so much criticism for this view. It's so infuriating to me. And, you know, it's like, oh, well, we just got to go in the city. Look, I live in St. Louis City. I'm going to tell you what, I've walked doors in North St. Louis City where we just got hit by a tornado here. I don't know when. I mean, it's going to take a decade for us to recover.
Yeah.
The number of folks who are just writing off that area right now, they've written it off for years. I mean, it was a powder keg ready to blow up, and this thing just happened to come through. And now folks are getting checks from FEMA that can't cover rebuilding. Their buildings are just falling down. They're getting no support. And they're getting these weird notices from the government saying, oh, well, it's time for you to get out. Where am I supposed to go? And if that's your interaction with government, it's your interaction with political anything, I mean, are you really going to go out and vote? Like, what is it? It makes no difference. It's just something else that is happening to you. And yeah, I mean, it is extremely frustrating because, you know, the first time that I went to the boot deal, I remember sitting there because I've worked in St. Louis City for a long time with kids for a long time and families, everything else. So I go to the boot deal and I gave them a whiteboard and I said, write down, you know, the biggest issues that you're seeing in your community. And, you know, this is a 3-hour drive for me. And I get there and they say, okay, so what's the first one? Well, we got a lot of vacant properties here. I said, you do? And they said, yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, there's people, you know, they kind of moved down and they didn't really take care of their property. And now it's falling down and hurting property values all over the place. I said, okay, what's number two? It's like, well, our public schools, you know, they're really struggling to teach kids. And part of that is because of the higher poverty area, you know, all of this. And I said, oh, man, yeah, lack of state support. And we're supposed to, you know, bring up all of that because Missouri, the state of Missouri just doesn't give any money to our public schools. I'm like, okay, what's the third thing? And I said, well, the third thing is, you know, these roads are in really bad shape. And I just stopped. I said, I just drove 3.5 hours to hear the exact same complaints I hear in North St. Louis City as I'm here right now. And just, I mean, if there was a man in North County at a political meeting that I was at one time, and he stood up, and people were shooing him off too, and I was like, this man's right. He said, if we could just build a coalition of working people here and rural people there, if we just got together and figured out we share all of these ideas and all of these issues, we could solve a whole, like that is the coalition that's just waiting to be built. So
that's what we're trying to do, brother.
100% with what you're doing. 1,000,000%.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. Well, listen, I want to make a little announcement while I've got you on here, and then I promise I'll let you go, okay?
That's fine. You're good.
I'm really excited. I want to let the Back 40 know. We are going to climb on the Back 40 bus, which is my old pickup truck with 208,000 miles on it, and we're headed down to Texas next week to go to the State House and stand up against gerrymandering and redistricting in the state of Texas. We're going to go down there. We're going to do interviews with a lot of the people on the ground that are fighting this. We're going to do a visit to a ranch while we're down there and talk with some people down in Texas about agricultural policy and how it's going to be affecting, America for years to come, these bad policies. So I just want to let everybody know we'll have more details over the next couple of days. We had the call on it today, but we're going to be headed back to the Lone Star State for the second time, and we're going to go down there and make some good trouble at the State House. I'm just convinced, Elad, that we got to go out of the talk. And listen, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been taking action forever. I'm ready to get on the road. I got my back problems fixed. My old hip, I'm gonna grab the walking stick, and the old hip's gonna hang in there, and we're gonna get on the ground, and we're gonna start raising a little bit of hell locally. So next week we're gonna be down in the state of Texas. More details to follow, but we're going right to the State House. We're gonna make a little bit of good trouble. We're gonna talk to people about what's gonna happen in rural America if we keep sending people there that vote against health care, that vote against education, and that vote against good rural economic policy. Yeah. So we're excited to be going, and I know you believe in all three of those things.
Sure do.
So
That's great. Wow, you know what? My truck is a little bit newer, but I think I'm catching up to you in that mileage right now. So,
Man, you know, the dirty little secret in the back 40 is that Will is the John Madden of rural advocacy. I do not like to fly, buddy.
I hate it. I hate it. I'm with you. I can't, especially now that we don't have Pete keeping the planes in the air anymore.
Exactly. Every time and you know what? I think my phone's been listening to me, because every time I go onto a social media platform, they're playing the the cockpit voice recorders out of, and I'm like, oh, no, not interested. Not interested.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I'm really excited about it. Listen, Elad, we got to do this again, man. I hope you're up for it.
Anytime. Yeah, let me know. Anytime. You're doing great work, and I really appreciate it. So, no, thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm going to be putting together a live coming up here probably in the next month or so. I've got two. I'd love you to join if you could. One is going to be about the poisoning of of Missouri water by CAFOs.
Yes.
Hope to have you come on for that with some other experts. And then the other one that I'm going to be talking about is the impact of these new immigration laws, specifically in the state of Missouri, in terms of the agricultural industry and construction and that kind of thing. But listen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on tonight and talking about Andrew Bailey. Thank you.
Well, not my pleasure to talk about him, but having me on. Yeah.
Well, keep up the good work, brother, and let me know if I can help with any of the things you're working on in any way. I'd be happy to.
Same. Thanks,
right.
man.
Have a good night, man.
All right. You all take care.
Bye-bye. Wow. Zeppo, what a great interview. What an incredibly great interview.
It was. I forgot that I was supposed to be typing in the chat a few times because it's so riveting. Like, fantastic interview.
Well, I think what that did too, if I could be so bold as to say this, is it defeats the argument that we're not running good candidates in the state of Missouri. I would put that guy's knowledge as a judicial expert, as an advocate for civil rights, et cetera. I would put him up against anybody in the state. We are running great candidates in the state of Missouri. It's just the headwinds right now are against us. But I do see what's happening right now in Missouri and across the country. I see this as an opportunity to chip away at that. I really do. You're welcome, Ashley. You're welcome. I was glad I was able to do it. Yeah, we will post this live, Nikki. We'll definitely be posting this live on YouTube. So give us a couple of days to get it out there, but we'll absolutely be posting these live. So Zeppo, I'm really excited to be going down to Texas next week.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. Just so everyone knows, it's in the early planning stages, but Will's definitely going. We're going to see if we can raise the money for me to get down there. Will definitely be there. There's going to be a few things happening when he gets there. We're going to meet some of the local organizers that helped us with Meet in the Middle down in Bastrop, Texas. They also had their own event, so I want to give them credit for that. But they're going to help us go down there. We're going to speak to not only people in the area about all the mishigash that's going on in Texas and the effect that it has on everything from voting to just this general fear that's being processed by DC all the time and the chaos. But we're also going to try and connect to some of the legislators there. So they're busy already down there right now, reaching out to state legislators and seeing if we can't get Will to interview some of them. He's going to go right to the state capitol. Right on the steps there, and we're going to be producing a few videos for you, and we're really looking forward to getting those to you. It's going to include some, deep discussions with some people, like interview style, and we're going to also have Will talk about exactly what's going on, just to educate and inform everyone.
Yeah, and Clayton, to answer your question, we are going to be doing something down there. We don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. We've got a lot of Meet in the Middle events planned between now and the end of the year. So we're not sure if we can squeeze in a Meet in the Middle event, but I am definitely going to go down there and work with Sandy and Susie and some of the other folks down in the 8th so that we can make some good trouble down there. And I'd love to follow your congressman around down there and give him hell. So we'll definitely be doing that. Hey, Four Fingers asked a really good question, Zeppo, and I think I'd like to just take a second to answer it. And then I'm going to make a pitch to you guys about helping us get down to Texas. Four Fingers asked the question, how do you get past this idea when somebody says, I'm just not going to vote for a Democrat because they're a Democrat? I think it kind of harkens back to what Elad and I were talking about when it comes to, are we just saying the bad things that they're doing? Are we just quoting statistics and that type of thing? Or are we really trying to make that connection at a personal human level? Let me give you an example. You can just say the big beautiful bill cuts Medicaid and it's going to impact people that need nursing home care. And you can leave it at that. Now, you and I, because we understand the ramifications of that on personal individuals, we get that and we say, okay, then that's a bad thing. Sometimes you've got to go deeper than that. So what I'm really recommending that everybody do is tell your own personal stories. Mine is, when it comes to that, is that in 2017, my mom got diagnosed with 2 aneurysms in her brain, and she had to have preventative surgery to fix those. And when they went in to fix those, they clipped a vein in her brain, and she ended up having a really serious stroke. And now she stays at home and she gets at-home care. And one of the things I talk about is, for those of you that have parents who are elderly that you're trying to work out their long-term care, one of the first things they tell you is that you have to spend through their assets. They'll tell you to go out and find really good at-home care so you can spend through their assets. And once their assets are gone, Medicaid can step in and take over some of the financial responsibility, or all of the financial responsibility for that. And that's what we've been doing, along with hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of other families across the country. Now, we've gotten her down to where those assets are almost gone. And now the big beautiful bill passes, and it puts us in a situation where those funds may be cut in Medicaid. So what do we do? And there are Democrats, Republicans, independents, people who are not even political, who are in the same boat. So it's telling those personal stories. Can we not at least agree that an elderly person that is disabled and needs long-term care and has been told over the course of the last 5 or 10 years, you need to spend down your assets, your retirement that you worked your entire life for, so that Medicaid can step in and qualify you so that you can get this long-term care paid for? Should we not agree that that's more important than politics? It's more important than our differences of Republican, Democrat, independent, or non-political. We should be doing the right thing. And what I'm finding anyway, and it's not a perfect approach, okay? It's not a perfect approach. It doesn't work all the time. But what I'm finding is that it's very effective. I can tell you quite often when I tell that story that I have Republicans that agree with me on that. They're like, yeah, you're right. Or they say, you know what? I had to do the same thing for my dad. Or I have an aunt and my cousins just had to go through that with their mom. So one good way to overcome that hurdle of just people throwing up a fence because of the political title beside names is to tell those personal stories, about how these things impact you, because it does make a difference. It relates it at the personal level. And I've even said before, when somebody's pushed back and said, well, it's not the government's job to take care of your mom, I say, I get that. I get the sentiment behind that, but here's the problem. We made a decision in 1961 that that's exactly what the government was going to do. And we've been telling people ever since then that this is what they need to plan for and this is what they need to do. And it was the Office of Medicaid that actually coached us on spending down her retirement and spending down her assets on personal home care so that we could get to the point that she would qualify for Medicaid. So you can't tell people to follow the rules and to do the right thing so that they can get themselves positioned for Medicaid care and then pull the rug out from underneath them right when they get to the end. Because if you're going to sit here and tell me that those politicals are more important than my mama or your mama or his mama or her mama, I'm going to tell you got your priorities in the wrong place.
Not to mention we pay into these systems, or our parents and grandparents pay into these systems their entire lives.
That's right.
But I do want to just support what you said, Will, because you really nailed it with the personal stories. And this is something that has worked from Cesar Chavez and Obama and marriage equality. This is how minds get changed, by sharing those personal stories. When you tell your personal stories, it draws us into the reality of it. It makes a connection between you and I. And to Elad's point earlier, creating that sense of community is what really works. We know that from doing these meet in the middles. But when you create that community environment, it's a different conversation that you're having. It's no longer those team sport conversations. Now it's neighbor talking to neighbor when you tell your personal stories, and it works.
You're right. And these policy changes are going to impact so many people, in personal ways. Just think about it. There are people that have made a decision, Zeppo, as to what type of job they're going to take, what type of house they're going to buy, what school they're going to send their kids to for college, based on the fact that they were getting subsidies to help pay for their health care insurance. Those subsidies were offered up by the government. It's something that we did in order to relieve the debt load on people that were trying to pay for insurance out of the exchange, and they made life decisions based on that. Can we not agree as Democrats, Republicans, and independents that eliminating all of those subsidies and throwing those people into a financial disaster is the wrong thing to do? They didn't do anything wrong. They're not panhandling. They're not out there trying to game the system. They made their decisions based on the legal and financial structure that was in place at the time that we told them was going to be there to help support them in their efforts to buy insurance, because we know that people are healthier, the healthcare system works better, research works better, long-term care works better, and disease maintenance works better in an environment where people can get healthcare. And people get healthcare when they have insurance. People don't go get things treated when they don't have insurance. Those are things we ought to be easily able to agree on, in my opinion. So, listen, I want to make a quick ask here, and then I want to talk to AgriCast for just a minute. Guys, we'd really like to, this trip that we're going on down to Texas, we'd really like to try to raise a little bit of money for this. We don't need a lot, but we'd like to get Zeppo down there if we can. And we've got some things we want to do from a media perspective if we go down there. So if you have it in your heart, if you could go out to our Act Blue, if you go to www.back40action.com, you can donate 5, 10, 15 bucks.
Back40action.org.
You can give 10,000.
Back40action.org.
Thank you. Back40action.org. Back40action.org. If you go out there and donate, it'll help us cover this trip that we're going to make down to Texas. We're going to go either way. We're going to find a way to do it because we know it's important work. But if you can find it in your heart to give a small donation to help us get down there, we would really, really appreciate it.
Let's tell them why real quick. So the reason isn't just so I can keep Will company while we're down there.
Yeah, that's right.
Although that will be fun. The reason is because, while we're on this live right now, right, we're reaching a certain amount of people. Each time we create these videos, we're able to reach tens of thousands of more people. It's also something that's easily shareable. So if we have the opportunity to create more content while we're down there, which is what I do, and we're able to bring that back with us, cut it into several smaller videos, make longer videos, and just an array of content, we're going to start reaching hundreds of thousands of people. And that's the goal here. So that would be the reason for me to go down there, to shoot that content and create something really amazing that we can share and you all can share as well.
Absolutely right. And listen, guys, one last thing I want to mention, and then I'm going to come to you, AgriCast. We are going to be hosting a nationwide telephone town hall on August 26th. There's already a video that's been put out on that. I'm going to do another one tomorrow advertising it. You can join for free just by calling into the toll-free number that's available on the flyer in the video. But we're going to be doing a couple of different things on this telephone town hall. We're going to talk about the impacts of the BBB on rural healthcare. And one thing I can tell you about the impacts is that if we're feeling them in rural America, they're also going to be felt in our cities and suburbs. So you can join from any part of the country if you want to learn more about the impacts, how many people are going to be thrown off their healthcare insurance, how the subsidies are going to go away and when. It's also, at the end, we're going to spend some quality time talking about what we need to do between now and the end of the year to push back against these subsidies going away for insurance purchased on the exchange at the end of the year. A lot of people don't realize this, but all of the subsidies that Biden put in place to help cover the cost of your insurance plan on the exchange, those all go away at the end of this year. So a lot of this stuff, the Republicans backloaded out past the midterm elections next year. The subsidies are not in that bucket. They're going to go away at the end of the year for sure. So, hey, AgriCast, I wanted to touch base with you. Were you on here yesterday when Bison came on? Bison is kind of a commodities expert up in North Dakota. Did you by any chance hear what he was saying about farm bankruptcies?
I did not. I did see it was on there, and it was a crazy day for me yesterday. I had speaking of healthcare, I had treatment yesterday. I had a Keytruda treatment yesterday. So
okay, no worries. No worries.
I missed them.
That's okay. he is a commodities expert, serves on a commodity board, lives up in North Dakota. And, everybody that comes on, like you and him and Grains and Pains, everybody that comes on that I know is an expert in the agricultural arena, I'm asking them the same question. These numbers you're hearing, about 15% bankruptcy rate, unless we have the largest bailout program in the history of our country, are these numbers correct? And I got to tell you, AgriCast, the last three people I asked, one served on a commodity board, one was a banker, and one was a farmers union economics expert. All three of them said, no, Will, you're wrong. It's not going to be 15%. It's going to be worse than that.
I would agree with them, and I'll tell you why. All I do all day, every day, is report on the markets, read about the markets, and learn why they're doing what they're doing. Along with that comes information as far as loan amounts, right? Like how much money was loaned out to young farmers, to farmers with no experience, new farmers. Those are the people that are in trouble. Those are the people that are in the worst kind of trouble because they are leveraged to the hilt.
They're 100% leveraged on their operation if they're starting out from scratch, most likely, right?
If they're under 10 years, they're leveraged to the hilt.
Yeah.
They've
Thank you, Liz, for donating.
They're overextended, right? So when it comes time to make those payments and they're not able to, and again, I saw your deal on Project 2025 in agriculture, and it's a evil section of that 900 plus page document. I'm telling you, this is their way of, they know exactly what they're doing. When they loan that money to those folks, and it's to the tune of, I would guess, $150 million they loaned out last year to these young farmers and beginning farmers and things of that nature. Those folks are in trouble because when they go to make their payment and they go like, well, I've got to wait on this subsidy, it's a year later before they'll see the subsidies because the corn prices right now are back in the tank, and all of a sudden now we've got 2 billion more bushels of corn than we thought we were going to have. If they planted corn, they're in trouble, right? And they're going to continue to be in trouble because I'm telling you right now that the healthcare subsidies, which is a whole separate thing, I get it, but the farm subsidies are in the same boat. 100% going to be in the same boat. They're going to yank them, and they're not going to tell anybody. I promise you, it's coming. It's right in the thing it's right in the Project 2025. I encourage everyone to go read it, right? You want to see where agriculture is headed in this administration, that's right where we're headed.
I got to tell you,
Corporate farming.
too, AgriCast, it's going to put guys like you and I that are advocating for rural America in a tough position because I can already see
100%.
the writing on the wall. And listen, I understand the sentiment behind it, but there are a lot of people that just don't buy into my argument that if we allow the farming industry to go under, that it's not the wealthy that are going to be hurt. I don't understand why they don't understand that. I think it's just pure anger, about the outcome of the election, which I understand. But there are going to be some of us out there that are going to have to advocate for subsidies in order to save the farming industry. And there are going to be people out there that think that we're defending the status quo and Trump by doing that. And we're going to catch a lot of heat for that. But I'm trying to find creative and unique ways to get people to understand what it's going to mean for poor people, the elderly, the marginalized, et cetera, if we lose the food chain in this country because of bankruptcy and corporatization and all these other things. We've got to separate what's best for America from our anger that these farmers and ranchers have voted for Donald Trump. And man, it's tough to get people to see that. And I completely understand why. Believe me, I get it. But I'm just telling you, it's going to be rough on guys and gals like you and me. I can feel it.
Yeah. No, you're right. And especially when this particular industry, agriculture as a whole as well, Will, is full of lifelong Republicans, and they will not listen to they're very hard-headed. Most of them. I don't like to use the word all, but especially the ones that have, they'll dig in their heels just to be right. They'll cut their nose off to spite their face.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
in order to reach them, it takes a lot. And we had an example the last time I was on here with a cattle guy in Texas, right? Like, but by the end of our little text conversation, I actually was able to reach him. We found some common ground. And that's the only way to reach them, is to find common ground. And unfortunately, sometimes that common ground is going to come in the case of it's affected someone they know adversely, right?
Yeah.
Like, their mom or their grandmother has gotten ill and they don't have the means to take care of themselves, and now they have to come live with them. Well, where's my help, right? Then they're going to be, and they're like, well, you remember back then you decided that folks didn't need that help.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And
but it does put us in a tough spot, right? Like, it's very, very difficult, and you have to tread kind of lightly with them at first, right? Like, it's funny that they call us snowflakes, but by golly, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm about as far from a snowflake as it gets, but whatever makes you happy, let's continue our conversation, right?
Well, it's just going to be a difficult case to make, and I know what side I'm going to end up on, and it's going to turn my stomach too. I had a doctor tell me once, who was a farmer during the first Trump administration, when they did these record-breaking subsidies the last year of Trump's tenure in office. And I told him, I said, man, I hear a lot of people out there that don't support Trump that are really angry about these subsidies. And he's like, Will, he's a doctor, a general practitioner, works in the emergency room regularly, a little bit older than you and I. And he said, you know what, Will? He goes, as a doctor, he goes, it doesn't happen very often, he said, but every once in a while, I'll have somebody that comes into the emergency room, maybe they've had a heart attack, they've had a medical emergency, and I look at them and I see them, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this person's not a good person. He knows something about them. They have a reputation in the community, you name it. Maybe they're not good to their spouse. Maybe they're not good to their kids. Maybe they've been busted for stealing before, whatever it might be. And he says, I have to make the decision to put all of that aside, because what's best for society and what's best for the medical industry and what's best for me as a doctor and for society as a whole is for me to keep my Hippocratic oath and treat everybody that comes through the emergency room. And I don't want to say that it's the exact same thing, but we do have to have the ability sometimes to separate the fact that people that we don't like are going to be helped if we pass policies that are good for the country as a whole. And to Mina's point, it's like, it's tough. She's absolutely right. It's tough because they put us in this situation. But sometimes we've just got to hold, I don't even use any cliche you want. Hold your nose, bite the bullet, whatever you want to say. Sometimes doing the best thing for the country, we got to hold our nose. It turns our stomach when we do it, because there are people that benefit from us that are the reason why the bad thing happened to begin with. And it just makes you want to puke. But you have to do it, because in the end, the people that are really going to get hurt the most are poor people.
Absolutely.
I've still got that chip on my shoulder from being a poor kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I 100%. It's why I own 100 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
Right, because I was too poor to afford any when I was a kid.
That's right.
So now I have shoes, right? But I read something today, and actually I thought of you when I read it. I was like, man, Will would love that. And it reads, it fascinates me that the idea of giving to charity is considered noble and praiseworthy, but the idea of creating a society where charities aren't necessary is considered socialist and scorn-worthy.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
They just built the whole political movement on that,
Yeah, and that to me just kind of spoke volumes about what we're looking at now with the subsidies going away on healthcare, and the average person is going to it's going to cost me an extra $800 or $900 a month, right? Like that doesn't seem quite right to me.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. I got that call a couple of months ago. I was talking about it on my live that basically I'm looking at my insurance going up close to $3,000 a month, and I don't care how much you earn. That is a lot of money. you do the math. That's $36,000 a year for health insurance. You know.
Yeah, and they don't realize it, and it's going to come back and bite them. And those that are on it and have insurance from the marketplace are going to be like, wait, what happened? They
That's
don't
right.
know. I'm telling you right now, they are uninformed and they have no idea what's
Most
coming
people
down the
don't
pipe
know that
at
those
the end of this
subsidies are
year.
going away. You're absolutely
That's a
right.
fact.
Hey, look
That's a
who's
fact.
here. Look who's here. Vic, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We had a great guest on. We had a guy named Elad Gross who ran here in the state of Missouri for Attorney General. He's an expert in all things Andrew Bailey, our disgraced Attorney General who never ran for office in his life and was selected by our governor, who he was a personal attorney for, to become the Attorney General in the state of Missouri. And then he proceeded to buy into every conspiracy theory there was out there, Vic, including the big lie. Filed court cases to get the records for kids, so that he can embarrass them based on their sexuality. Just all kinds of horrible things. So why wouldn't we pick that person to be second in command at the FBI?
Sounds pretty Trumpian.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. I'll tell you, I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of yours. You watch my stuff. I know we say this stuff all the time, but it's a very, very frightening time right now, and I'm just glad you're fighting the good fight. I see you out there with all those kids doing your thing, man. It makes me smile. I don't know if you heard, but we're headed down to Texas next week to see if we can raise a little bit of hell down there at the state capitol in response to the gerrymandering and everything else that's going on. So we're going to do our best. Hopefully we'll make you proud.
I'll be watching. I got kinfolk down there, so hopefully you'll do some good.
Man, I hope so. Vic, did you see Ken Paxton standing up at the lectern and berating the people that did not stand for the prayer and saying that they would be kicked out of the state house if they didn't stand for the prayer the next time it was held? Did you see that video?
I read about it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it or see it. I mean,
Yeah. Well, this is America. Like, I'm going to say this, but this is America. The guy whose marriage is ending because he violated all the Christian tenets of his relationship with his wife, and his wife comes out and actually releases a public statement. Oh, it was Dan Patrick. Well, I don't want to make that accusation then. But I do want to say this, though. There's absolutely no way you can't make the argument anymore that this is about Christian nationalism and probably white Christian nationalism. You just can't make that argument anymore. I mean, that in itself was enough to prove that that's what this is all about. And still, we have people trying to say that it's not about Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism. It just boggles my mind.
when I was a kid, my dad used to say that he hated to think about how big the universe is. He hated to look up at the night sky because it messed with his head. And that's how I get when I try and think about MAGA and these right-wing Republicans in office who are trying to push all this Christianity stuff and then do the most unchristian things.
Yeah.
It messes with my head like that did with my dad's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell Christians that all the time. I work with some interfaith, organizations, and we're trying to push back. That's one of the biggest problems. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Vic, but we just don't have enough Christians pushing back against this. We need to be leading the fight. I think you've heard me say before that this guy over my shoulder here, my grandfather, used to tell me, if you're going to belong to something and you're going to call yourself something, and I know you believe in this too, because I see your criticisms of our party, you've got to be its biggest critic. You got to be the first person to stand up and say, we can be better than this. And man, do we not have a lot of Christians doing that. It is one of the most disappointing things in my personal life to see Christians just standing by, watching them bastardize our religion and not saying a word about it. Not saying a word about it.
Honestly, that's why so many people like myself, I've never claimed to be a Christian. I believe there's this guy named Jesus who roamed the earth 2,000 years ago who was really smart, had some really good lessons for people that we should all follow. But I've never called myself a Christian. but I think I'm more of a Christian than any of these MAGA types.
You are, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that viewpoint, Vic. I mean, the bottom line is, I'd be happy if they even just tried to follow some of the things he taught, whether they call themselves a Christian or not. To your point, but I don't see a lot of it. I don't see a lot of it. Well,
I got to
listen,
tell you, Vic, real quick, I don't want this moment to pass. When I land on one of your posts, Vic, it lowers my blood pressure. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, well, thanks for that.
that's pretty good. I just think that you're one of the great voices out there, Vic, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I really appreciate where you're coming from, knowing that you're from rural, America. And I think it's good for people in rural America to see voices like yours and voices like mine, because I think sometimes it gives them the courage to speak up. I think they believe sometimes when they're a blue dot in a red ocean that maybe I ought to just keep my mouth shut. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. And I hope one of the positive things that's coming out of what we're doing is that it's giving some people the courage to stand up and say, I can speak up too. I can speak
Well,
up
that's
too. At least I hope.
that's exactly why I started making videos. I never planned on having a bunch of followers and all this stuff. I just thought, well, maybe if one or two people see somebody that looks like them out here in the country, then maybe I'll convince one or two people to stand up and vote blue.
Vic, I hope sometime when we do a meet in the middle event out your way, and I'm sure we're going to be doing a couple probably right after the first of the year, I hope you'll come join us. I'll let you know when we do it, but it'd be great if you could, come join us. I think it would be phenomenal to do a little bit of rabble rousing with you.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
If I can, I will.
I think so too. Sounds good. Well, man, I hate to do this to you, but we were just about to wrap it up. So, but
Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. I just really appreciate you coming in. I think we've just been two ships passing in the night. When you've been doing your lives, I haven't been on, and vice versa. So I'm really happy that you came on tonight, and just keep up the good work. I'll tell you the same thing you'd probably tell me. Just keep up the good work, man. Keep fighting the good fight. I really do. If I could be so bold, Vic, I really do think what we're doing is making a difference. I really believe that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I just hope I'm doing as much good as you are.
You are. You are, my friend. Trust me. I think at least in the rural parts of this here country, there are more and more people learning more and more about both of us and the other folks out there, that are advocating for rural America every day. So I really appreciate it. And I'll holler at you here. What we need to do is just do a live some night. And what I'd love to do, I don't even care if it's on your platform, mine, or somebody else's. I'd love to get 3 or 4 of us rural advocate people out there and let us all do a live together and commiserate about what's happening out here in rural America. I think that'd be fun.
Well, my wife just left me for 3 months, so I've got all the time in the world now. She's a
Strike
medical
while the
traveler,
iron's
so
hot. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. So, okay, man. Listen, good to talk to you. We're going to wrap it up, but I really appreciate you coming up, Vic.
all right, thanks for having me on.
You bet. Have a good one. All right, everybody. Listen, like I said before, we're going to be down in Texas next week. I appreciate everybody talk. I already see people saying we made a donation, and we really appreciate that, guys. Really appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help support us. I'm going to make a lot of video content down there. We're going to do some live stuff as well. So just stay tuned. We had our planning call today, and we're just kicking all of this off right now. So we're right at the beginning stages of this. So just be patient. And over the next few days, we're going to be talking more about what we're going to be doing down in Texas. Zeppo, let me give you the last word. Anything I missed? Anything you want to talk about before we end?
Remind everyone that we've got the telephone town hall coming up, and I do want you to remember that it is 100% free. I'm going to put the number one more time. It's August 26th, 8 to 9 p.m. Central, 1-800-631-4291. You can spread the word for us because everybody can join. There's no limit to how many people can join. It's a national call. You'll have the opportunity to submit questions. We'll have a Q&A at the end, but we're going to meet the real people affected by all nonsense. we're going to have experts from the National Rural Healthcare Association on there with Will as well. So please spread the word. We really want you to join us. It's 100% free. It's definitely going to be a good discussion.
That's right. Okay, everybody, listen up. We're still doing the live on Thursday. So we'll be on here from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time Thursday evening. I just wanted to do this live tonight because of the announcement of Andrew Bailey, the Missouri Attorney General, going to the White House. He's a very frightening public figure. He's on the wrong side of everything that's good, everything we believe in. And I wanted you to learn more about him because he's one of those motivating factors for me. If this is the guy that they're putting second in command at the FBI, then that tells me bad things are going to continue to happen there. And it's a motivation for me to continue to keep fighting. So we'll be back here Thursday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the meantime, guys, all I can tell you is I hope good things happen to you in your life, and let's all keep fighting the good fight. Everybody have a great night. See you guys.